We're good now?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Well, we are here this week with Brad Nelson and my co-hosts Ryan Overturf and David Scogan.
Hello.
Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
So, Brad, we've got you on the chat. You've been testing your balls off for the WMCQ. Is that correct?
No, I've just been playing a lot of Magic because that's I haven't been able to play Moto for like a month due to the lag of the new set coming out, and then I've kind of just sat at home and played a lot of Moto. It's not really WMCQ; it's mostly the Invitational coming out.
Okay, yeah, that's a big thing too.
Yeah, and there's an Open the week before, and now I might actually try to get into the top 8 for the Players Championship at the end of the season. I really haven't yet. Like, I played 2 Invitationals and like 3 or 4 Opens this entire year.
Right.
And so I have like no points. So maybe I'll try to do that. But regardless, I've just been playing Magic because I love playing Magic, and I have over 60 QPs right now, which is a ridiculous number.
Yeah, that is insane. Usually people, that's like more than is actually useful, right? Like, isn't there like a certain number where you get like a buy or something, and then...
Yes, it's you need 35 to qualify, and then any extra I can like play in the tournaments to get more points and get like prizes that are relevant.
Okay.
And I could just play on different accounts to get the promos, but that would... I don't really know how to trade that efficiently with version 4 yet, so...
Sure.
I figured it out.
Okay. Cool. That's good. So you've been playing a lot with the new client, and it sounds like you don't hate it because you're still playing Moto.
No, I hate it.
You do hate it?
No, it's awful. There's pros and cons. The biggest con to me is that it's been around for almost 10 years now, and like last night I was recording a daily, and the memory leak that's just been an issue forever was starting to cause problems because I was running Camtasia alongside Moto, so I exited and restarted in between rounds, and I couldn't log back in, and then I checked Twitter because I had 2 really long rounds, so I wasn't on social media at all, and no one could log in. So like then I got dropped from the daily because like they weren't allowing logins. And like issues like that just infuriate me, and I couldn't trade with bots yesterday either. Like, these are just not issues you should have. There's some really good things about version 4, but the things that have just been constant over the years is getting on my nerves.
And as frustrating it is to be dropped from a Moto event normally, like when you're recording and you've like dedicated X time of your day, because sometimes something comes up and like whatever video you're using just isn't usable anyway, because like maybe you just get mana screwed in the first round and you can't like, it's not even worth uploading because nobody's going to learn anything.
So you do
another one, and then like Moto drops you out, and like sometimes it can take a long time to get a quality video set that people can learn from.
Well, I agree, but see, the way that I did it is I just added those along to another daily, and for some reason round 2 of the second daily, just like I couldn't find it on my computer. I don't think I saved it, and so we're actually uploading 5 videos, 2 from one daily, 3 from the other, because it's Legacy, and all my matches are really sweet. They're all very good matches, and really long. Like, they're the longest matches I've ever recorded. Like, there's 3 50-minute matches, so I'm really curious who actually sits and watches every minute of it. I even said at the end of the last video, it's like, if you watched every minute of this to where you're here, please let me know in the comments, because those will be the people I'll like listen to, because they're actually dedicating 5 hours to a video. Right.
Yeah. That's quite a time commitment. But Legacy is exciting. What are you playing in that video set?
Deathblade. It's the only deck I play in Legacy now. Every other deck I've done poorly with, and I've never felt like I knew how to play the format. And whenever I play as for Deathblade, it's like I consider myself one of the best in the room. And I've learned the deck, and I understand all the matchups, and I just win with it. Like, I just don't lose with the deck ever. That's a lot of hyperbole, but
you've got a lot of friends that are like very strong Deathblade players too. Like I remember jamming a couple of games with BBD, and he said that he'd like picked up the deck fairly recently when I first played him with it, and he was playing very tight. It was like impressively tight.
Yeah, I mean it's the deck in the format that when you watch it lose, it looks like the biggest pile in the format. And when it wins, it's winning by inches and not miles. And so it looks to be like a really bad deck, and it is punishing. You can't screw up with it, but if you play it perfectly, or as close to that you can, it rewards you with a lot of wins. And so as long as I'm playing it tight, I think it's like a really good choice.
Me?
What are you playing in standard right now? You know that you
for
said that you had like
it's really
60
tough
cubes.
to learn.
What was that?
We got two statements at once. What were you saying, Ryan? And then we'll go on to Skogan.
I was just saying, like, because the margins are so punishing, like, if you make a small arrow, say you thought sees the wrong thing, you force a will the wrong thing, you just get crushed. Like, it's really tough to learn a fair deck like that. Like, did you find that it was a tough learning curve for Deathblade, or you just picked it up and you're like, this is how I play Magic?
That more so that I picked it up back when Geist was a thing, and I went 6-2 in the Open, where I was 6-0 and I had to play twice and lost to not knowing the cards in my opponent's decks. Like, I played against a Storm player that just played the white card that just says you can't play spells.
Silence.
Silence, and I didn't even know that was in their deck, so he just like blew me out with a Silence. And the other match was against Dredge, which was, could be a rough matchup. Or not Dredge, Reanimator. And then I went 7-1 in the Invitational that I played it in. And then I dropped it for a long time and picked it back up because it is just my strategy. Like, this is how I like to play Magic. Jake Van Lunen actually taught me what my specific calling is when it comes to decks, and it's highly interactive decks with explosive endgames. And it's really funny that someone else had explained it to me. But I always like a deck that interacts with my opponent as much as possible. Like, my cards are supposed to interact with theirs, and then I get to a board position where I can't lose. And that's a Batterskull with a True Nemesis. Like, that's the board position you just never lose. Same with like the decks like I played like Act 2 and Hoof. There it is. Like, the decks that I usually build involve cards like Blasphemous Act and Brave the Elements and Crater Hoofs, just like ways to interact and blow them out. And that's exactly what this deck is. So it took a lot to learn, and it's not even like hitting the right cards. Like, Legacy is a format where you can play the wrong land, fetch for the wrong duel, play the wrong spell, and resolve it incorrectly. And your opponent hasn't even made a decision yet. It's unbelievable.
Going back to your deck preferences, the first time I ever noticed you playing was like a while ago, like almost 4 years ago. You were like making videos for channel, and I noticed that you were playing Valakut in block or something along those lines. Some kind of red-green deck with a very explosive endgame. Was it not Rug? I think you moved on to Rug later after the Pro Tour, or like right before the Pro Tour. But you were playing like straight red-green for a while.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I might have been like
Zendikar and stuff.
That's actually,
but that's similar. That's, like, eventually get to this board state where you just can't actually lose. So that seems like it's been going for a very long time. But Skogan, you were going to ask about what he's playing in standard, right?
Yeah, it's somewhat tangential. We can stay on this if you want, but
no, Deathblade is like, everyone hates Deathblade. Actually, like,
yes,
I don't know what the chat is right now, but they just hate the deck. So we can get off that subject. Like, that's not a good one to stick on.
Well, you mentioned that you had 60 QPs, and that is kind of an absurd amount. I'm guessing that it's primarily from standard and probably a lot of 8-mans. For whatever reason, when they took down the daily events and they upped the QP count on those 8-mans, they just kept with it, so it's a great way to grind QPs if you're a Moto player. Is it primarily with that black-white mid-range deck that you've been posting about the past couple of weeks?
It was until this week. I got the deck to a place that I like it, and oh man, we could go on about this deck for the entire show. But I got to the point where I was just chasing my own tail with the deck, so I dropped it for a while, and I started testing different things. Like, I tried, for a while I thought this was like the really sweet deck, which was mono blue splashing Simic Charm. And Simic Charm is like everything that deck has ever wanted. And it colds a tactics for starters. It just gives your whole team hexproof, so you just beat a tactics. It lets you attack into their green creatures, just like a giant growth, and it's your Cyclonic Rift as spell. So, like, by sacrificing a little bit in the mirror, but I don't even know if you are, because, like, you can attack into their Night Veils or block their Night Veils with Judge's Familiars and pump, and you can, like, break their domestications. But it was good, but it's still mono blue, so it's like your good keeps are still too anemic sometimes, and it's ridiculous. It's like I keep Judge's Familiar into Frostmourne into Thassa, 3 lands Mutavault, and they kill my Frost Premiere, and I'm just dead. Like, I just lose the game. And so, like, I can't handle the swings with Mono Blue. But I got stuck on that for a couple days. I played different versions of Black-White, different versions of Black. I've been kind of on a pack rat kick. Like, I just think that the format's too good to play that. And people keep playing these Sylvan Caryatid decks, which, as long as Sylvan Caryatid's being played, I'm going to play pack rat, because all these decks, for some reason, like, forgot what it's like to lose to pack rat. So, like, this Jund Planeswalker deck just dies to pack rats. And I don't think they understand how bad they are to pack rat.
So speaking of Jund Planeswalkers and pack rats, something I've been seeing that people are doing, Pascal Maynard in the Canadian WMCQ as well as the CFB WMCQ, both tournaments, the second place deck was black-green rock. One had gray merchants, one was just Nissas. Have you experimented with lists like that at all, that have the Desecration Demon into Nissa with like Pack Rat and Thoughtseize on the low side of the curve?
I haven't, just for the fact that I think Nissa is a very good card, but I have this weird hatred towards green cards right now, and that's not usually a normal thing for me. It's just that they feel underpowered compared to most. Like, a Nissa wins games, and it can do that all by itself, but there's an inverse effect to playing a deck with Nissa. You just lose games because you have Nissa too, because it's not a 5-drop, like it's a 6-drop. So you play it on 5 and you can sometimes die. Like, my opponents will play it on 5, make a 4/4 that's tapped, and I'll kill it with my pack rats, and then they have this 4/4, and they invested an entire turn into having this 4/4, and that's not that impressive to me. And so it's like a 6-drop, and I think the only 6-drops in the format are Elspeth and drawing 3 and gaining 3. Like, that's the only things you can do with 6 mana. So I haven't been that big of a fan of those archetypes. They just don't break serve. Like, a Nissa on the play is very good, but Nissa on the draw is bad, and that's really what this format feels to me, is like making sure your deck can win on the draw the same way as on the play. So I just want an efficient deck that has like a bunch of removal and Thoughtseizes, and my creature to have a huge impact. So right now I have Obsidian, because that card is just very good right now.
It is. I've been actually messing with a red-black aggro deck. Very, very similar thought process. Like, I want as many cards that can just win the game on their own. So I'm playing red for basically Rabblemaster, because like Thoughtseize into Rabblemaster is like kind of very similar to Thoughtseize into Packrat, and then you still have demons, and then like some Chandras and such, and then you can dip into red for like Dreadbore and whatnot. But it's mostly for Rabblemaster. It also combines with Mutavault as well. Not as well as Packrat, obviously, because you're not pumping toughness, but it's relevant, getting extra power.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, that card, the reason I play Bremaz is because my removal works really well with it, and the same thing with Rabblemaster, except Rabblemaster's a little bit more aggressive, and so your deck wants to play towards that a little bit more.
Right. Like, I was playing like Lifebane zombies and stuff as well. It's just like more of an aggressive, still a value card. Still
yeah. You don't have to sell me on Rabblemaster. That was my job.
The mana on that deck sounds a little rough. So you just had like Jam 4 Confluence, or how are you?
No,
I'm
only playing one Confluence. You have the temples, and then you have we still have Blood Crypt for now. It hasn't rotated yet, and then Urborg makes everything tap for black, of course.
Yeah, like, I don't think you're gonna have a problem with black mana. I'm just like, I'm curious how often you just have Rabblemaster and you can't cast it on turn 3.
4 mountain. I think I'm on like 14 red sources right now, and something like 16 or 17 black sources with my current configuration.
Yeah, I mean, 14 is very high for just needing 1 red, but like 16 is a little low for double black.
There's Chandra as well, and some Storm Breaths in the sideboard.
Well, I get Caves of Coillus, and I still think my mana base is bad. So
That's fair. I think Chandra's worth it so far. The couple of people that I'm testing it with are saying that the card is like not as good as I think it is, but like going Rabblemaster into Chandra is kind of nice, because if they just have like 1 creature to block, they're taking 8 damage.
Also, what are they going to do? Attack your Chandra and leave themselves defenseless next turn too?
Exactly. And it's not like having a blocker is gonna help them out that much. And then it fills kind of the connections role, because I'm not playing Underworld Connections of grinding out the control decks.
But then that's my paranoia, is like cards like you're talking about best case scenario where you're on the play and you do these things. Like, those cards are just awful on the draw.
Chandra, yeah, it is a lot.
Chandra and Rabblemaster both, like, you can't block with the tokens, and And so like that's my big concern. Like that's where standard is right now, and that's why like every deck is just like okay, and it's just like knowing how you're supposed to sideboard and what matchups you want to be good against and things like that. And I don't really know what my answer is, but I'm gonna play the black-white deck at the Open just because that's all I've been playing, and that's where my best win percentage is. And I was trying Blood Baron for a while, but that was where I was chasing my own tail. Like, I kept playing Blood Barons, and they're good against Lesnia and other black decks, but they're awful against everything else. And I have to like trim out on all my numbers and all my other matchups. So like every matchup drops 5 to 10% just to make my black matchup, my mirror match, like 50-50, because the versions everyone's playing is the Pantheon, which you can't have a better mirror. Like, there's no way to make that deck better in the mirror match. And so, like, everyone I play against, I can only get to 50-50 for decks, not play skill. So I just said screw it, and I'll just, like, play hope I get lucky against the mirror and not play those Blood Barons, because I think they're really bad.
In a recent article, you said that Standard's stagnancy has contributed to a larger than normal number of players getting a mastery with the format.
Yeah.
And you pointed out a lot of skill testing cards like Snapcaster and Resto that are no longer around. But what do you think about Thoughtseize? Is Thoughtseize like not as skill testing as Snapcaster Mage?
No. Whoever thinks that casting Thoughtseize is like complex is ridiculous. Like, you get like think about it. Like, you're on the draw and your opponent Thoughtseizes you. They get to look at their 5 cards, and you're 7, and they get to map a game plan, and you don't have this information. And then at the end of it, they get to take your best card, and whatever card interacts with that. So like the actual skill testing with Thoughtseize is not choosing with Thoughtseize, but like mapping your own game plan when you get Thoughtseize. Like, the card that they take should impact how you scry. And just understanding why they took that specific card, because there's a lot of times where somebody will just snap off a card that should not make any sense. It makes sense to the commentators and it makes sense to the person casting it, but it should not make any sense to the person that's getting Thoughtseized. And that's like the most interesting part of the entire game, is that next scry. You know, it's like my opponent Thoughtseized me and took this is like in one of my videos. My opponent Thoughtseizes me and takes my Bioblight when I have something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but
A card.
I then like scryed, some card that was more on the slower side of the game.
That wasn't the lamb.
Yeah, so I scryed and I hit an Underworld Connections, and I bottomed it in a mirror match because of the way that he Thoughtseized me, that I thought like I couldn't afford it because I had to find answers to threats. And like that's what's interesting, is because that's the best card in the mirror, and you know, that was correct because he just like wanted to play a Pack Rat Demon game against me. And so,
interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I think that a lot of the players that are in this format now are really good and efficient with what they're playing, and I find it very rare to just like get to outplay someone. Now there's board states where I'll get them. For example, like one of my opponents had a crazy Pack Rat game, but he attacked he attacked me with 1/6/6 rat. Or he could threaten with a Mutavault, and there were 5/5s, and he didn't see that I could block with a Brimaz and my Demon to get a token, and then attack him, and both my tokens will be lethal to get like the extra token. Like small things like that I can like sneak games out.
Yeah, that's like a sealed situation though, like a pile of creatures and them interacting and him not reading the board correctly.
Exactly, but like players know how to sideboard every matchup, what matters, what doesn't. They've just been in every situation multiple times that like they just know what they're supposed to do. And so the way to beat that is to try to be a little bit more powerful in different angles. But for the most part, like you can't get away with like not having the right tools in a specific matchup and just try to outplay your opponents. Like that is kind of the cards, but for the most part, it's that the players aren't going to screw up with the cards anymore. Like, they know how these cards operate.
Are you looking forward to the rotation?
Yes.
Fresh set of
Oh
everything?
my God, you have no idea. It makes my job. This is the most, like, every other week I call Cedric. I'm like, what do you want me to write about? It's like, I don't want to write about Thoughtseize, and I don't want to do a video with another stupid deck that I've already done. Like I like exploring formats mostly because it's I like that I have the ability to impact the world's FNMs, and I put a lot of time into trying to do that just because like I like to spice things up. I like to build new decks. I like to give people fun things to do. And this format is so oppressive. Like, there's nothing fun you can do. Like, you can't beat Thoughtseize into Timebiter Mage into Lifebane Zombie into Supreme Verdict, and that's the format. Like, there's no way to attack that format.
I think Sphinx's Revelation is a little bit oppressive as well. Just because
everything's oppressive.
The grindy cards that might be able to compete with the black decks, like cards like Keranos, cards that can actually outgrind Underworld Connections. Like, if your control opponent is just, like, revving for 6 and then desphearing your Keranos, like, it's a little bit awkward.
Yeah, it's that the entire format's built on efficiency. Like, you have Revelation on the top that nothing can compete with Revelation. That card wins inevitability. And on the aggressive side, nothing beats the red decks at hyper-aggressiveness. And so there's only one deck on one side spectrum and one deck on the other side spectrum, and then everything else is just clumped in the middle.
Mid-range garbage.
Yeah, and that's what the format is. And maybe once we can get a control deck that can beat a different control deck, and get an aggressive deck that can beat a different aggressive deck, and not force every single deck besides the two to have answers to both as including themselves. Like, I can't wait till Sphinx's Revelation is gone. Like, it is such a pain.
What about fixing? Like, the land rotation is pretty huge as well, right?
I mean, yeah, like, we're gonna lose some duels, but that's Magic. Like, everyone, like, my favorite is when somebody will come up to me and be like, hey, you don't have to tell me about what's going to be good after rotation. I'm like, I don't know. Wait until there's 300 plus cards that are going to be coming out. Like, then until that last one is spoiled, I'm not even going to think about it. Like, I'm just going to wait until every single card gets spoiled and then start working on the format, because you don't know what they're going to give us. They could give us fetch lands. They could give us another cycle of the what are they, ally colored pain lands. Like, they could do certain things. They're giving us Tri-Lands, and what was in combination with Tri-Lands before? Was it only Tri-Lands? I feel like there was another cycle of lands that came out in shards. Was it only Tri-Lands?
They had the border posts, if you count those.
Which ones?
The border posts. They weren't lands. They were like artifacts you could play as lands in the third shard. That was shards,
They had
right?
the panoramas.
At Panorama. So they might come out with another set that might do something. Like, I don't think they're going to just want a million temples and a million tri-lands, so there's going to have to be a powerful come into play on tap land. Like, they've already they've conditioned us to have good mana, and I don't think they're going to want us to go to a world where we have to fight between temples and tri-lands. Like, that doesn't seem correct.
Especially when it's a wedge block. Like, why would they make a wedge block with bad mana? Like, that seems awful.
Exactly. So there's going to be good mana, and I'm not really worried. I'm never worried about the mana. I mean, I like bad mana. I think bad mana is really good for Magic, at least for my win percentage.
You can't see me right now, but my brain is exploding. I think you're the only person who's ever said they like bad mana ever.
But bad mana makes
Two people who like bad
everything.
mana? Oh my god.
Yeah,
You have to choose what's good.
I wouldn't phrase it in a way where I say I like bad mana, but I hate the feeling where my opponent casts blue card into red card into green card into black card, and their mana base has not punished them whatsoever. Like,
I don't know what you're
on
talking
her.
about. See, when I do that, I'm playing for Shimmering Grotto. Like, I have registered Shimmering Grotto in more than I think any tournament anyone else has ever done it.
I have come very
that's only
close
been in
to
the last 3
registering that
years.
card. I can't do it. I cannot bring myself to that level.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, how else are you going to get your Absent Pilgrim to make other colors? Like, you don't need that much white mana. But no, I mean, we'll see what happens with the new set with mana. I'm not really concerned. Like, I do think because of the Courser, Caryatid, there's going to be very powerful green decks, and hopefully there's something that punishes them. But green looks like it's going to get really good.
Hopefully there's not just a pile of devotion decks, because that's kind of
there's no way.
There's no way.
No, Wizards saw what happened this year. Don't you think by the time that they got to this set that they just trimmed everything to be X and one color?
It's hard it's hard to say that with this set specifically, because I mean, how long does it take them to actually develop a set and have all those cards and stuff. I think when this current block started, they probably already had this set close to ready to go, and so it's hard to like have this block factor into it. I think
I think they could have done some things, but also it's a wedge set, so like there's going to be more multicolored cards than monocolored cards, and you can't really like play a devotion deck with Woolly Thoktar. Like that's not possible. So
challenge accepted.
I mean, go for it, my friend.
It's kind of telling that M15 really didn't have any good devotion enablers. Like, this is something we kind of talked about with Wesco last week, is that they didn't even have, like, White Knight, which is, like, this perfect core set printable white creature when white devotion really doesn't even matter. Yeah, I mean, what else are we going to talk about, But, like, there was nothing out of M15 that I was like, I want to put this in my devotion deck as, like, an enabler for this Master Waves or Nykthos or anything. It was all just, like, single-colored things.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the next set is going to be multicolored things, and it's not going to be like the hybrid mana. Hopefully, it's not going to be hybrid mana. I think they've learned that they shouldn't do that around a Nykthos-based set. But I mean, they know what they're doing. Like, and even when they don't, it still works out because there's more people at Magic tournaments than any of us can, honestly say we want there. But I mean, as a content producer, I love that there's like 800 person opens, but when I go to one of those, that is just a daunting thing. Just looking around and like being at table 213 as a Nelson, just like, are you kidding me? Like,
one of the last opens I played was in Indy, and we sat down and there was 11 rounds, and I was like, and I lost round 1 because I was playing a bad deck, and I was just like, I'm just gonna drop. I'm not even. That's it. That's my tournament. As opposed to like, I remember one of the first opens I played in was like a 8 or 7 round Legacy Open or something like that, and I showed up with a round loss and just like ground it out into top 16. It's just not really a thing anymore. There's too many people. It's too many people.
No, it is, and your win percentage needs to be overnight. Like I don't know why, but and it's true, even though it's a ridiculous statement. But I personally believe that top 80 a GP is easier for me than an Open. Because I'm really good at going like 84 to 86% in a tournament that I feel good in, and I'm really bad at going like 92%. Like, I just can't spike a tournament that well. I need those 2 losses because I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and usually they're just going to compound in one match, and I'll just botch a match completely, and then I'll get back into gear.
Brad Nelson quote. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. Former player
we
of
all
the year,
make
Brad
a lot
Nelson.
of mistakes. Dude, I played the last GP I top 8 was Cincinnati. I played so bad. I apologize to both my opponents in round 14 and 15 because I just screwed up everything and then drew a revelation. Like, all right, this guy is sweet.
Standard, woo!
Yay! Yeah, I'm really good at knowing what my opponent's thinking and what they want to do, and then just botching the technical side of it. I'm like, oh, he's got this. He's got Blood Baron in hand, and he's got Blood Baron in play, so I'm going to have to get him to play it next turn and have to have an answer to it. And then I'm like, all right, took down my Elspeth, took down my Jace, hit a Supreme Verdict. I'm like, well, that was stupid. Like, could have played that better.
So speaking of technical play, when I first started hearing your name and kind of watching your feature matches, one thing about the way that you played then, I don't know how it compares to now, is that you were really big on bluffing. And like, you just had this really good mental game. Do you still bluff anywhere near the same level that you did 3 or 4 years ago? Or do you try to just play more technically tight?
No. I never bluff.
Never.
If I'm doing it, I have it. How many people are watching? You'll never see me bluff. All the time. Yeah. It's you have to have that ability. You have to be able to do something. Now, Standard doesn't really allow you to bluff that often, but like I have done terrible in Legacy and Modern, and I found 2 decks that are highly interactive, and I get to use that side of the game. Like, I played Tarmo Twin in Modern, and the last tournament I played in was 4 months after the last tournament I played in. And I never even did anything. I didn't do any preparation. I just played before the Pro Tour. And after a couple of rounds, I was just back in it, and I was just making plays that just make no sense if you're just watching from my side of the table. But like putting a land into play tapped on turn 3, and then them not respecting Pestermite turn 4, or shocking myself for no good reason, but making them have to play with half their mana for the next 2 turns, and doing things like that, and even just sitting there and staring at my opponent for 30 seconds. Hoping to get a read and then just jamming my combo and killing them, which I did get the read. But yeah, like that's my strength. That's my strong side of my game. The reason that I fell off, as well as have been fighting not getting back, is my technical game's a little bit weaker and my confidence level's a little lower. I play not to lose a little bit too much still, even though I know that that's a problem.
This is actually kind of surprising to me, given that you're sort of well known as a Magic Online grinder, and that was sort of your beginning into Magic as Mox Player of the Year or something like that. And sometimes it's really difficult to get a read on your opponent when all you have to look at is their side of the board and some of the like tiny things they do. That's kind of surprising to me. How do you think that this ended up happening? That you became a much better person at reading opponents in person and not so much a technical player, which is what a lot of people say Magic Online does for you.
Well, I mean, it's because of 2 things. I mean, I've been playing Magic in real life competitively for like 8 years, but like now with big tournaments for about 5, and I'm not afraid to look at my opponent in the eyes. I constantly look at my opponents in the eyes, and that freaks them out, and it's hilarious to me. It's like if you make eye contact with your opponent, they immediately jet away. But the more you are in these situations, you just get feels for people, like the tone, and I don't know, that's my strong suit. Like for example, with poker, I'm awful at poker. You get me to the turn and I have no idea what to bet. My range of, like, if you ask me what I'm supposed to bet in any situation, it could be a ridiculous amount to where some poker players have laughed at me. But I will always have good gut feelings about what they're doing and what they're thinking. And I don't know, maybe that's just a skill, that's just a talent with Magic, and that I've honed over the years. I can't really say where it came from. I just know that that's one of my strong suits now.
You play enough Magic, you're gonna learn how to read people.
You interact with enough people in a gaming environment. I think that's what it is. Like a lot of people have the same tendencies. Like you can just like group people together with just certain situations and probably figure out what they're majoring in and what their part-time job is and all this stuff. By the end of a match, I could have a pretty good guess on a lot of that stuff.
So you've talked about getting the read and reading people, and I think, and like you said, that's something that comes up naturally. But how often do you notice that your opponent is also like reading information correctly, and then you like feed bad things into the loop, like trip them up in that sense?
Like I try to, but the problem with that is like you really have to be great, or you're going to get yourself to such a level that you are back at level 0 and just dying. like you if you're getting to the point that you're playing the Princess Bride game with your opponent, like there's no way you're winning that game. Like there's just no way, because they're just like, I'm going to cast my spell and see if I win. And you're just sitting there thinking he's reading into something, just this, and so like you're like trying to throw away permanent to like get this removal spell you think he has because he did something, probably because he just played his card wrong. And now you're like, oh, he must have Selesnya Charm because he attacked, and he's like, oh, I forgot that was you had a Mutavault, so you can make your Pack Rat a 3/3. You know, like there's these situations that come up.
There's a really real danger there as well when you're trying to read them reading you, because you've already established that they have some kind of read on you, and so you're going to go to a level that is going to almost by definition lead you to make a not very good technical play. It's like, what are the odds that they can't read you on that next level going up? You know, like if they're already seeing something.
Well, let me give you an example. I was playing round 1 of a St. Louis PTQ. This was back in Extended, and I was playing a grindy like Jace control deck. I had like Pestermite, Splinter Twin as the win condition. And my opponent is playing fairies, and this is round 1 of a St. Louis PTQ, and I'm giving my opponent none respect, right? Because it's round 1 of the shitter PTQ, and I just like, I usually don't start giving people respect until like round 6 or 7 or something like that. It just leads to more wins that way. But the situation came down to me having like quad mana leak in hand and drawing and discarding a lot, and my opponent beating me down with Creeping Tar Pit. So he had infinite lands, and I just did not have lands. And then I finally hit the mana to play Jason Brainstorm, and I put back a random card, like a mana leak, Volcanic Fallout on top of it, and I hold the Lightning Bolt in my hand. And he's got one Creeping Tar Pit, he untaps, he thought seizes me, he takes the Bolt, which I left in my hand, I kind of expected it, and then he attacks me with one Creeping Tar Pit, plays a land, and next turn he's going to be able to play a land, animate both Tar Pits, and Xaxes me. So I untap, I take my turn, I draw the Volcanic Fallout, I put it down, I don't really give him any reads, I just put it into my hand and pass the turn. He draws and animates one Tar Pit and then tanks. And I'm like, why aren't you just attacking me for the win? Why are you tanking here? Like, obviously the only card he might be thinking about what to play around is Volcanic Fallout. So like, obviously I've misread my opponent. I should have been giving him credit the entire time, because now he's going to play around this Volcanic Fallout and then kill me next turn, because I'll have to play it, drop down to 4 or something, draw my dead card, and then like just die to his Creeping Tar Pit's attack. Like, I need him to activate this Tar Pit. And so because I know that he's already thinking about Volcanic Fallout, I take my lands and I sort it into a Volcanic Fallout pile. And he's looking, and he's like, well, the only way he bluffs a Volcanic Fallout, alright, and he just snap calls. He just sends in both Tar Pits to kill me. Just like, that is like an instant snap decision, like, you're dead, I got you. Because like, he knew that I did not have the Fallout, because I put my lands in that manner, and then he died. It was a sweet match, though.
I can see that. Like, I never get to the point where I try to like get them that way, because like, and maybe I do actually, but I would have to be in your shoes to actually see how that plays out. It's kind of the same as I was playing a match against Yurchek like in 2011, and he was playing Splinter and I was playing Kago or Kobblade post bannings, and I could either threaten to have removal spells, or I could try to kill him, because I had 4 Squadron Hawks and a Colonnades at 12. But and he knows I have a Dismember, but he has a Splinter Twin, or he has a Spellskite in play. And so I could like hold up more mana, trying to say that in the last 2 turns I've drawn things, or I could just go for the throw. And as I'm tanking, I just look at him and I see his eyes are on his side of the board, looking at different things, which like indicates to me that he still has to process information and still craft a game plan, which means like if you have all the pieces, you don't have to craft any game plan. And so I just jam and then he bricks and dies. But like in that situation, I think that like by doing that actually makes me think you do have it. So I feel like that was just a PTQ level bluff where
Oh sure,
you
yeah.
You
I'm
just
Bush League all the time. Let's jam it.
Well, you have to be Bush League. Like the thing was I only tested with Team China Fireball, played in Grand Prix and Pro Tours for about a year and a half because I live in North Dakota, and so when I moved to Roanoke, Todd had to teach me how to beat bad players because I didn't know how to. I would think they had Selesnya Charm, or like I'm going back to Selesnya Charm, and I think they have it. And I'd be like, I'm pretty sure they have Selesnya Charm. And then the next turn, they would play as if they didn't have it. They would not play the way that I would play with Selesnya Charm. So now I'm like, do they have it? Do they not? What's going on?
Nope, they're just bad.
Well, obviously he has it. He's just not playing the cards the way I would play them. Obviously he has it. My read was right. And then I'd get blown up by Selesnya Charm that I figured out he had 3 turns ago. Like ridiculous things like that would happen. And
Todd seems like the perfect instructor for that.
Oh, yeah.
Just he spent so much time grinding the Open Series, like made that conscious decision to do it full time with his wife supporting him. Like that's huge. That's
Oh yeah, we have definitely benefited each other a lot. Like I finally think I've broken him of his day 2 fever, where it's like he gets so emotional in day 2 and just like would implode, and he has not been doing that lately, which is like awesome. But yeah, we've been very good for each other's games, like, and so is like the other people. I mean, I miss Jerry. Jerry made me a deck builder. God, I'm gonna get to see him this weekend, but I just miss having him around Roanoke.
Isn't he? He's not moving back.
No.
Did he ever get you to play Kaijudo?
No.
Okay, because apparently that's just not a game anymore.
Yeah, it did get canceled.
Wizard just posted something, and it's this really convoluted thing that said that like so people were like playing our game and buying into it, and we had a good like player base growing, but like the product wasn't satisfactory to meeting requirement. It was like, what is like? Are you just saying that you had a bad game? Like, what does this even mean? It's the most convoluted.
Very long.
They didn't. I don't know how good the game was. I didn't play it. Jerry liked it. It was probably good, but they had a bad like game plan. They're like, we're gonna, try to market this to 14-year-olds, and then 25-year-olds show up and they're like, no, we want to play your game. They're like, we're still gonna market it to the 14-year-olds and have them win these tournaments and fly them where they can win a pizza party. And then a 14-year-old wins one of these tournaments and they're like, Mom, I want to go to this tournament. They're like, you're not going to Seattle. They're like, but there's prizes. They're like, it's an iPad and a pizza. And she's like, that would be the cost of my flight. I'll just buy you pizza and an iPad.
And I don't have to worry about my 14-year-old child traveling alone to some city.
Yeah, so then a bunch of 25-year-olds show up, and they're like, well, eventually they'll have prize support like Magic, right? Nope, they just give away more pizza.
I'm just saying, as a 25-year-old, if I could sit down and win F&M and get a pizza party, I would be so happy.
Are you kidding me? Okay, you have to win a PTQ and then fly somewhere and then win that tournament. Then and only then will you get pizza, sir.
Calling these things...
I'm going to be eating pizza the whole time on the way there.
No, you have to share it with all of your friends.
That is a downer. But I think
a contract that you sign after you win the PTQ that you will share the pizza.
Are you really going to go up to all the people you hang out with at Friday Night Magic and say, you cannot have my pizza with me?
Yes.
Are you going to be that guy?
Snap call. No pizza for you. I'm going to throw the rest of this away. Like, you guys don't deserve this.
I wish Chuck E. Cheese's posted PTQs in Magic.
Oh my god.
If Chuck E. Cheese...
That wouldn't be the most awkward mashup you get from just going to Grand Prix, though. There's like a Grand Prix, and then there'll be some weird like ferret convention next door or something.
That would be the most awkward. Like there would be like, what parent would allow their children to be around Magic players? Like, let's be real. Even at a place where it serves like beer and has a ball pit. Like, that would be insane. You did say Chuck E. Cheese, right? I didn't hear you wrong. Okay, because they have ball pits. I don't know the last time you've been in one, but I was in one last year.
Apparently Brad Nelson hates ball pits.
No, I love ball pits, but...
why are you against the Chuck E. Cheese
players in a ball pit?
I feel like if there ever were a PTQ at Chuck E. Cheese, there would not be another PTQ at Chuck E. Cheese.
That's true.
I remember the worst venue I ever went to was this place called the Odeum outside of Chicago, and they have tournaments there sometimes. But it was like right next door there was a ferret convention, and then at a certain point at night, the ferret convention cleaned out and they turned it into a haunted house. So they have a haunted house that smells like ferrets or something over on the other side, and then we're in this room trying to play Magic, and there's a cut to the top 8, and apparently we were supposed to be done by then because fog starts like going over the stadium, like this big like wave of fog rolls out, and it's this ominous thing as like players are shuffling up and trying to focus on the top 8. And then the exit for the haunted house was in the room that we were having the tournament in. And a guy with a Freddy mask and a chainsaw was chasing these like 14 and 15-year-old screaming girls all the way through the length of the entire room as we're like playing Magic on these splintery tables and trying to focus, and there's this fog like clinging to everybody. It was absurd.
I'm pretty sure this sounds like the best location to have this then.
What it sounds like to me is a justification of a second place finish. That's what I'm hearing.
Did you get second place there?
No, I lost playing for top 8. Really good.
I will have another year of not having to play in a PTQ.
Oh yeah. You're gold or?
Yeah, I'm only gold, but
I mean, gold's still great. Like only gold.
Oh, no,
I've never been gold.
I'm happy. I've been silver for the last 2 years, sweating at every single tournament. I will take gold. Like everyone was like, "What's your goal for the tournament?" And I was like, "Not to get DQ'd." As long as I am not DQ'd, I have my goal. And I'll just play my 16 rounds, hopefully, and see what happens. Which, incidentally, was the exact same finish the last Pro Tour I had. I've had the exact same finish, exact same records. in the last 2 PTs, like down to the place.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good though. I mean, it's obviously not as good as Player of the Year. That was the sickest fucking run.
Dude,
I smashed every tournament ever.
I didn't even feel like that I was that person. Like,
you don't think you were that person? Someone was possessing your body?
Looking back and like saying that I was like on top of Magic for a year after now, like looking at it and seeing how off it is, like it's unbelievable. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't really love. Thanks, Wesco. What? Are you the only one that knows that?
you can go into it.
Oh no! I mean, it's that no one remembers. Everyone remembers the Wesco check. No one knows that I was the one that benefited from it.
Yeah. I was very much in the middle of that situation because not only did I watch their match, because these are the people like playing for top 8, but so I caught the end of that. I met both Wesco and Drew Levin and Alex B in this tournament. Alex Bertoncini was the person that Drew Levin had made said bet with to get DQ'd from this tournament. And then I had to wait for 2 hours while I'm super exhausted. I've never like top 8'd a GP before, and I'm just not used to playing 2 days straight. And like the caffeine is crashing. Like I had 2 giant Red Bulls, and that was like not enough. And I'm just feeling super exhausted. I really just want to play the top 8. And there's this 2-hour investigation because like one person like said something and then the other person like called the judge. I hated everybody involved so much. But although it was very good for you.
I mean, I wouldn't have even been there if it wasn't for Evan Irwin. My phone was dead. I thought I was going to take 12th place if I won my last round. I looked at breakers, and I was going to leave and go hot tubbing and then go to sleep for my flight. Or I was driving the next day, but I was tired. I didn't want to do anything that night. But Evan asked me to do an interview, so we did this interview, and now we're talking about other things. And then all of a sudden, I just hear my name called in 8th place, and I don't even know why or for what. But like, I involuntarily just started skipping, like just through the whole hall, like just skipping. That's the only reaction I could have. And then I had to go get cards back because I already gave people their decks back. I didn't have a deck when I got called for top 8. Like, I had to rebuild my deck. And then embarrassingly played the worst match I've ever played. That's also on camera. Go watch it.
You don't need to watch it.
Oh, it's the worst. If you guys want to see me play so bad, like unbelievably every turn, I don't even have a game plan bad. Go watch me get destroyed by Saito.
It is the worst Magic I've ever seen you play, which actually isn't even that much of an insult because I think that's the only case I can think of seeing you play bad Magic. Even like just like random like side drafts that we've been doing where you like clearly wanted to be doing something else. You just played like you just like demolished me. But
that was one of, if not your first Legacy event, right?
It was
like
my
really
first
early.
Legacy event.
You were playing Junk and you did not know how to interact with Standstill.
I didn't know how to interact with anything. I tagged a Bob into a Mistress Factory twice. It was bad. The only reason that I did well that tournament is no one else has ever played against Mazavith with Knight of the Reliquary. And I would attack, deal damage, and then untap. You can't do that. I guess I can. And I'm like, you should play Magic Online. I'm still attacking after combat. Or after damage. And that's the only reason. Like, other than that, like, I had to read every card that killed me. When my opponent cast Show and Tell, I read it. Then I thought, what would somebody put into play with a Show and Tell? And I was like, And I'm like, should I put a Bob into play and hope to draw counters? Or should I put this Knight of the Reliquary and play and go get a Caracas for an Emrakul? I'm like, we'll go with that one. And then he puts Emrakul and I go, yes! I figured it out.
Cracked the magical code.
Yeah, and then, like, I have basics in my deck. Fetch, non-basic, fetch, non-basic, fetch, non-basic. And a mirror pick just back to basics me. I'm like, oh, that, okay. Then next game, fetch basic, fetch basic, fetch basic. You know, like, I had to learn everything as the tournament went on. Like, I realized I was at a handicap, so I assumed that my own chance to win was I start at 6 cards and they start at 5, and that means I hand to Turok everyone. And I guess it worked out. Like,
it is a great equalizer. If you don't know what you're doing, you want to be the person playing him to Turok, not the person playing Force of Will. That is for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I don't even know. Like, I just talked to Brian Cole, which was a good friend of mine, And I was like, what do I play? He's like, well, I'm playing this deck. And I'm like, does it brainstorm? He's like, no. And I'm like, good. It's like Tarmogoyf and Knight of the Rockwares. I played those before. I understand those cards. And I had no idea what was going on. It was the entire tournament was embarrassing as that match, and I don't know if that's a slight on me or my opponents, because like topping that tournament was ridiculous in my opinion. Like I teched into a Mishra stack with Bub twice.
Was it the same game?
No, it was different opponents. Like,
well, I mean,
I thought it was like Inkmoth Nexus both times. I kept forgetting that you don't have to pay mana into it. You know, they have 2 mana open, one of them Mishra Factory. I didn't know it could just, target itself with no mana activation. It was bad.
Yeah, it's quite a good card. You shouldn't have said anything. Nobody ever would have known if it was 2 different opponents.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna feel embarrassed about doing poorly in Legacy forever. Like, that's pretty much like I've got that one on lock. I'm awful in Legacy. Well, I was.
But you are feeling good about this upcoming Invitational.
Yes, now I finally do feel good in the format. Like, it took until about like this year to feel super confident, and now I feel like I feel like one of the players that you shouldn't feel fortunate to play against, but you should actually not want to play against.
And I think a big part about Legacy is that it's really hard to say that there's actually a best deck in Legacy, but I believe that for every person, there is a deck that they should be playing, that they can play better than any other deck relative to that deck's power level. Obviously, there are worse decks and there are better decks, but like, you can have a very good Rug Delver player, you can have a very good Esper Deathblade player, you can have a very good Sneak and Show player, and regardless of the relative strength of that deck, having somebody that's an expert with that deck is going to do better than that person with either of those other 2 decks, or even with more examples.
I 100% agree, and because I write, because I'm like kind of a Legacy enthusiast, a lot of people always ask me, "Hey, Caleb, what's a good starting Legacy deck? Can I play Burn, or should I play Belcher?" Like, because those are the decks that people always hand off to their friend because it's their extra deck that they don't want to play. I'm like, no. Why would you? Do you play Burn in Standard? If you enjoy playing Burn in other formats, you might enjoy playing it in Legacy. If you're playing like a 4-color blue control deck in Standard with a pile of Planeswalkers, you're not going to have fun like casting lightning bolts and like hoping your Sulfuric Vortex gets there. That's not going to be like a good time for you. Like, why would you do that to yourself?
Round 4 Lava Spike go. Like, it just eats away at your soul.
Yeah.
You just start drinking.
It's plenty of time to drink, though.
Yeah,
So you're saying don't give them Doomsday?
Doomsday, yeah, I still don't know what they do. I just know that I'm probably supposed to name Infernal Tutor. I'm supposed to name Doomsday.
Most Doomsday lists don't play Infernal Tutor. If they're going to kill you with a Storm finish, they're going to use Burning Wish.
Alright, well, don't name Burning Wish. Thanks for the advice.
If you see red in their mana base, if you don't see red in their mana base, it's not worth it, because they could be using Laboratory Maniac, and you should just name Doomsday. But Burning Wish is a better call if you do see red, because they can use Burning Wish to get Doomsday, and then they're only going to have 3 Doomsdays in their main deck, so it's going to be a better call overall.
Yeah.
There's kind of a rule of thumb for Legacy. If you don't
Oracle, it's just countered.
I did once probe someone, like ask him what it does, and he's like, "Well, that's not really the text. We'll get the Oracle," and I'm like, "It's an upkeep trigger," and he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "And you don't have a counter spell?" He's like, "No," and I'm like, "All right, sneak attack your deck." Whatever. I don't even know what it
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is faster.
Oh man, but no, I agree with you on that. Like, Legacy is all about the player, and the only reason I say the best deck is because I'm a Magic player, and Hyperbole just comes with me. Like, there's no way not to exclaim all the things. Like, I don't have the ability not to do that.
And there's always those posts in the comments too, like, don't you mean that it's only this way like most of the time? I can think of some situations where what you said is not like 100% correct, and you're just like, Jesus, man, you knew what I was saying, please. Like, I'm not going to spend an entire article saying, like, unless blank and blank is the case.
Yeah, this
if you want to
really
get
good,
invited,
except it's 30 situations.
Yeah, you can just infer it.
If you want to get invited to a lot of parties, be the guy that corrects hyperbole
Yeah.
for perfect correction.
All those magic parties. There should be more magic parties. There's a decent amount after like pro tours and stuff, karaoke and whatnot. Those are fun.
Yeah, I mean, they're a blast. I have become kind of a prude since we travel all the time. I've just gotten used to like now in my old age, and I know I'm not saying I'm old, but in like magic age, it's been like 5 years. It's like on a Sunday night after a pro tour, it's like I could go out or I could just get a good night's sleep because my flight's at 9, and I don't have to be hungover on the flight. Then when I get home, I don't like just go to sleep and then screw up my sleep schedule. Like I think of these things now, so it's like if I have too early of a flight, I'm just gonna say screw it because that morning is so brutal.
Yeah, I probably should start doing that. I've only actually played on one pro tour, and the Sunday night, I just got destroyed. I was staying with, I don't remember who I was staying with, but I paid for the room. He owed me for the room, but I was blackout drunk until after his flight left. So we had to work that out later.
That's awesome, yeah.
That sounds similar to my first pro tour. Was in Amsterdam, and it was when I first met a lot of the Chicago grinders that were also going to this pro tour. And I needed a place to stay, and they were like, "Well, we only have 4 in our room. Of course, you can stay here." Just like completely ignorant of what the European hotel situation was going to be like, because this randomly throwing a 5th person into a room in Amsterdam is like not something you should do unless you've like specifically seen the room. Right, yeah, that fits 1.5 Americans exactly. 2 beds that fits 1.5 people. Like, it's like a twin because the beds are so close together. Just absurd. And whoever booked the room wasn't thinking about location because we were like downtown Party Central area, and I was the only person to day 2. And right across the street there was a nightclub. And after the nightclub was like shut down and like all of the music and stuff was over, I was like, finally I can get some sleep at like 3 in the morning. And then they started doing this really weird thing where they would sing for a while, and then they would do this sort of like urban cow tipping where they would chant and like push a car over. That was just what they did. And then they would cheer because the car was tipped over, and they did this for like another 3 or 4 hours. And I finally got to sleep at like 6 in the morning and had my alarm wake me up at 7 to like take 2 buses to the actual pro tour. I didn't do very well.
That sounds awful. I had really good sleep at that tournament.
Oh, well. How nice for you. I'm glad you were well rested.
Amsterdam was pretty insane because my brother came to party, and I thought he might have been dead for 2 days. So, like, I didn't see my brother from Thursday until after I beat Kai in top 8. Like, in Amsterdam, they had, like, a different area for the feature matches, and you have to go through these big double doors to get back to the event site. And coming back through, my brother's there just giving me a hug. Like, he was excited I beat Kai. I was excited that he didn't have to, like, to have a sit down with my dad, that I didn't bring my brother back from Europe. And he just like was out partying for multiple days and just like was on a bus going back to our hostel, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll just stop at the Pro Tour and see who top 8." And lo and behold, I was on the top 8. You know, like he didn't know until sitting down watching me play in top 8 that I top 8'd, because he was like partying with a bunch of people and like. But I didn't stay in the same room as him, thank God.
I don't think I know anything about your brother. Does he play Magic?
Yeah, actually, my brother, I consider the best player. Again, I understand hyperbole. That was never recognized for anything. He played like 5 or 6 straight Pro Tours. He was on the Pro Tour before I was. He played 2 Pro Tours before I ever played one, and he consistently went 68%. And by consistently, I mean every tournament he went exactly 68 to 70%. And so he would always top 50 and never spike, never top 16, never made a top 8. But his win percentage would always be there. And he actually qualified for 6 Pro Tours in a row by only playing like states and Pro Tours. Like,
I believe that he's a 2-time North Dakota state champion.
4-time.
Oh, wow. He is twice the champion you thought he was.
Wow. I was just mentioning it all to dagger you. Actually, I didn't even know the number.
Is he also a motor grinder?
He used to be. He hasn't played. Okay, so this is a good example. My brother like quit playing Magic for a while, And I came back this 4th of July, and I was telling him a little bit about vintage matches. He's like, that's sweet. And I'm like, he's like, I'll play silver that. I'm like, well, it's like 50 tickets or 45 tickets. He's like, well, I still have 50 on my account. I'll do that. And then like 3 weeks later, and this is like a month after the format's been out, so people understand it, right? And he's just jumping in with no background in the format, not even looking at the thing. With that one sealed, he just went infinite in Vintage Masters. Like, I lost my entire Moto collection to that format. Like, I lost it all. I just, like, it was like Vegas, going home, empty-pocketed, and just feeling like crap. That's what Vintage Masters was for me. And for him, he actually just, like, built a Moto collection again off of it. And now, like, he's going to move for college after his 2-year in North Dakota where there's no Magic. Like, there's nothing for us there, like for anyone that's like talented in Magic. There's no one, and but he's going to be moving to Denver or to Fargo where there is like an area, and he's going to get back into Magic. He got the itch from playing Vintage Masters, but like the kid is very good, and I think he would be one of the best if he got destroyed by the Planeswalker points thing. Because he was always in top 50 in the rating in the world.
Oh, the ELO thing, yeah.
He was always in ELO, and he never grinded it. He just always would like stay in it with like
with your 68% Pro Tour record, like
just but then he got destroyed because he had 0 Planeswalker points, and he fell off immediately. So then he just like wasn't going to try grinding and hasn't really came back into the game. But he's very good, and I'm hoping that in a year or two he'll be back on the Pro Tours with me.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I would hope so as well. Then you'd like you'd be able to like test with him for the Pro Tours and stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, that would 100%. Like that was my favorite thing. He tested with Channel Fireball a couple times, and that's the one thing I miss about Magic is playing it with my brother, and it still doesn't compare. Like just getting to travel with him, like going to these tournaments together with like just starry-eyed and not really like, you know, I wasn't I'm not jaded yet, but you know what I mean, like looking at a tournament hall with him, and like when I won a match to take 9th in a Pro Tour, like we hugged like I just won the whole damn thing, right?
Yeah.
But like I wanted to take 9th, and like my cards weren't even off the table, and like if you ever seen a Player of the Year picture, he's the guy hugging me while I'm still on the table. Because he was qualified. Yeah, he was qualified. That was maybe his last Pro Tour was Paris. It might have been. I don't remember.
Sure.
Like, yeah, I miss going to tournaments with him. So, having a brother was awesome to play with Magic with.
Do you you mentioned like the switch away from ELO invites to Planeswalker points, and then people complained about like people have been complaining about ELO invites for forever because it like incentivized people not to play Magic. And then people complained about the Planeswalker points because it incentivized people to play Magic. and then they cut that for the sponsors invites, which seemed fine to me, but I'm also hugely biased as the 2-time pity invite returning champion. I think I'm the only person who's gotten 2 invites from that system just because I can't win a PTQ, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Although I would have had an invite in there naturally because I top 8'd 2 GPs, and at the time, like you had to win the extra round to top 4 to get an invite from those.
Yeah, back in the day, top 8 and 2 GPs like made you gold. Like you were qualified for 2 different Pro Tours, and the pro points from both those tournaments would have probably got you gold.
Well, I got silver that season, and that didn't have an invite with it, so I just like quickly fell off.
Oh god, yeah. When silver didn't give you an invite,
when silver was 2 buys.
Disgusting. Yeah.
Here's this non-prize.
It was also like free entry into the mocks, right? Or PT, like a buy in PT or free entry. I don't remember.
It was only 2 buys, and you got 2 buys from playing to get silver.
I couldn't believe it. Like when they switched over and I got stuck in silver for 2 years by like missing by like 2 points each season.
Oh god.
Oh, it was awful. It was so bad. Like both years were really disgusting. Like, and oddly enough, I never got to play in a PTQ because I kept winning or top 8 Grand Prix, which that's not a humble brag. It's like, like I got so lucky not to have to play in these PTQs and never get back into that. And I did miss 1 Pro Tour. Which is like the season that I missed by 2 points. You know, if I was just qualified, if Silver gave you the invite, I hit gold again. And the whole system has been, it's tough, man. But the thing is I like that it's tough. Like, I think that the old system, it was really easy to stay on the train.
Okay.
And I like that it's tough because, like, level 4 did not feel like an accomplishment. Gold feels like a huge accomplishment this year.
I like that too. The whole restructuring with the Pro Tour, the whole points and the levels and stuff. It seems like they've done a really good job with that. I just miss something to catch the grinders that fall through the cracks. Because if you it's not exactly an easy thing to top 8 4 PTQs. And some of those players were the people that were getting the ELO invites and the Planeswalker points invites. I don't know. I don't think it necessarily has to be sponsors invites. I just think there should be something to collect a few players that could fall through the cracks.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree that there's a lot of players that fall through the cracks, but there's always going to be players that fall through the cracks. It's just which level do they want them in. It does suck that it's like the known people, right? Like, we already know these people exist, and seeing them fall through the cracks sucks. But at the same time, like, there's always going to be someone close to the cusp and doesn't get there. Like, that's just always going to be a thing. So making it more difficult, though, makes it feel tougher, makes me feel better about being there. And it also means that, like, it's not easy to just qualify for every Pro Tour. And, like, you know, I'd much rather play against the people that wanted it more. And not just, like, it was so easy to limp into level 4 every year.
Right.
If you were level 4, you were going to be level 4 next year. It's almost impossible. You get 12 points just by showing up.
Right.
You need to find 8 pro points in an entire year. like that does not seem difficult. That's 1 GP, right? Whereas like I top 8'd 3 GPs and top 30'd or top 53 pro tours, and that was good enough for gold. You know, like, and that feels like a gold year for me.
What about the switch to the new PTQ format? I've heard like infinite different reactions to that.
You mean the SCG Invitational IQ ripoff? That one?
I mean, but that's how companies get better, right? Like, people are always talking about, like, DC is ripping off Marvel and Marvel's ripping off DC. Well, they're both getting better because they're learning from each other. Like, it's not...
I honestly believe that this has a really good chance of backfiring because Wizards has yet to ever, like, they overestimate a player's willingness to travel and play Magic every weekend. Like, you saw that with the Grand Prix schedule from last... Like,
overestimate or underestimate?
Or they underestimate.
Right.
They underestimate that. So, like, they only had, like, 15 Grand Prix in a year because they're afraid that they'll like, oversaturate the market. And then, you know, the Open Series does every single weekend, then the next year Grand Prix every single weekend. Because they're too scared to jump that ship. So now they have these PTQs that are like IQs for PTQs, or invitations to PTQs that are more local based to do this big one. But what happens when someone really wants to qualify? They're going to have to qualify. They're going to have to win one of these slots. So they're going to travel a bunch. They're going to travel these things just like their PTQs, except you need to win another one. And so, like, if they're having PTQs for PTQs that are still over 100 people, which I could see that happening, it's going to be a disaster.
That would be brutal. Yeah, they were saying they were hoping for, like, they were expecting like 50 to 60 people in these events, but
56 is still high.
I don't know about that. I don't like, I've played FNMs that are larger than 50 people. That doesn't.
No. I don't mean but I mean, like, you only first get something, right?
Yeah. I mean, whoever's doing them is going to be doing like prizes or packs or something. Like, there's going to be more prize beyond that.
That's actually my concern with this system, is that even under the previous system, like, there wasn't really any uniformity in how you conducted a PTQ. Like, you could top 8 one PTQ, get a box, top 8 a different PTQ, get like 8 packs or something. Or like, if you go out to California, they have like 5 or 10K PTQs. And this one, if you're like operating at the store level, you could have just radically different experience as a prize structure. You could literally have a PTQ that only awards the invite for the actual PTQ, and then like one that has like box prizes for top 8, or like even cash prizes.
Like a 5K or a 2K or something?
Yeah.
What I want is, I want you to be able to run an IQ with this PTQ and run them together, and then first place picks which one they want, and then second gets the other one.
You draft the invites.
Some IQs have cracked 200 people, right? Just like normal
Well, these are not. I don't know if regular IQs have cracked 200. I know maybe the super and elite. Like I played in a 140 person one last weekend, or 120 high.
It's still more than the 50 or 60 people than they want for these PTQs. Like 140. Yeah, I mean that doesn't sound ridiculous to me, especially if there's cash prizes down the line too. Like, and then second place player at least gets to go to something. And who knows? Maybe the Invitational is like right across the street from them, and they couldn't get off work for the day that the Pro Tour is, and then the second place person gets to go to the Pro Tour. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and like this kind of thing, like I think it's a step in the right direction to not have these huge PTQs and to have people play more Magic, and to also benefit LGSs. I think you really need to promote the card stores in the specific cities, because they are the front line for Magic. They're going to get the Duels of the Planeswalker players into playing Magic, and if we're not supporting their stores, like how are we going to get them to go to the Grand Prix and the Opens and everything else? Like you need to promote and build these small stores up and give them tournaments that people will come to. And so like that's what I really like about it, that PTQs are like one time per area per season, whereas now you get to have a bunch of these smaller tournaments that get players into these card stores. And so like that to me is like the biggest benefit of this whole thing, and probably one of the big motivators for them, instead of having these tournaments always in convention centers because they're too big. You get to play them in the local game stores, but at the same time, like any player that I've heard, a lot of people that disliked him, they're like, well, now it's even harder to top 8 or get to the Pro Tour. And I feel like one of the ways that these players, like a lot of the players that complain about the difficulty to get on the Pro Tour only play, they kind of test kind of for a PTQ.
They just want to sack out. They just want to show up, play Belcher or play Mono Red or something, like sack that win. But those players, they don't realize that having another tournament to win means they're less likely to having to do well in 2 different tournaments is tough. But you probably weren't going to do well in the Pro Tour anyway. It's not like you're guaranteed to cash at the Pro Tour.
It's that winning a PTQ is tough too, and it's that these players, if you test, you will get results. I am just proof of that. I work my ass off with Magic, and I play a ton, and the tournaments that I do well in, it shows. It is just proof. And a lot of these players that talk about this, aren't putting the hours in. I fell off the train for 2 straight years. And 1 year I had no benefit, and the second year I got 1 PTQ or 1 Pro Tour because of silver, and I busted my ass to get to this gold spot. You can say that I'm good at Magic, but the reason I'm good at Magic is because I constantly put work into the game. And so when these people complain about I'm quitting Magic because I can't get on the Pro Tour, I think a lot of them are just lazy, and they don't actually put the work in dedication. They just pick up a deck before a PTQ and go with it and hope they beat everyone else. PTQs sound like a miserable experience. I haven't been to one in years, but they just sound like they're awful. Just with a bunch of people that feel like they have to be there but don't want to be there. Are they fun? Are they like opens?
It really depends on the PTQ you go to. They all have different environments. Some of them have an openish feel. Some of them are better than opens. I went to one the other weekend, and there were 140 people, and the thing was a 1K. And a lot of people were having fun. My round 1 opponent went turn 1 Waste Not, turn 3 Miracle Reforge the Soul. He got to draw 4 extra cards off of my hand, and then he played Burning Inquiry, and off of the Burning Inquiry he discarded an Eldrazi, which he Goryo's Vengeanced. And I died. And I was like, alright, that is a way to win at Magic the Gathering. And
that is awesome.
I mean, I crushed him, but he was clearly there, not there to grab an envelope, he was there to play Magic and and have fun doing it.
So in the Midwest, we really don't get many opportunities to have PTQs with cash prizes, but in Minnesota, recently started having the PTQs at this place called the Fantasy Flight Game Center. It's by this company, Fantasy Flight Games, and they have a liquor license. So in my experience, the PTQs have been a lot more fun recently.
Well, that's my old stomping ground too, and I actually really liked. The only complaint I have from Minnesota players is they are really good, but they have no unity. So the good players will win a PTQ, then no one will help that person. That person will do bad at the Pro Tour and then just be back at the PTQs. And if they helped each other test, they'd all be on the Pro Tour. They'd all be trained by now. But the same 5 or 6 people keep winning PTQs and then have no resources when it comes to the Pro Tour.
Part of the problem is some of the Minnesota personalities don't actually lend themselves very well to playing in groups. Like, a lot of the better players in this area can be kind of hard to talk to, and I'm not saying that I'm an exception to this rule. Like, it's just something I've observed.
Well, I don't know if it's changed much in the last 3 years, but I'm pretty sure I could name the names. So we'll just keep it between you and I.
All right.
And I don't think that's representative of the Midwest in general. Like maybe Indy, but like Michigan has a strong group of players, and when one of them qualifies, people help them. And Chicago has a strong group of players, like people that even if they're not qualified for the Pro Tour, they're still doing like a weekly draft night and still like getting incredibly good. And I know Madison, like there's a group of people around Sam Black, but even when he's not. So even when he's not testing with Star City, or not Star City anymore, with Channel Fireball Pantheon's a sweet name. He still has people to like test and draft the new format with. So when he goes into the Pro Tour preparation, he's like ahead. That's a very good draft group. By the way, that Madison group.
They're very good.
One of the nice things about living in Chicago is that like whenever Ben Rasmussen had that week like everybody show up here and draft the week before the Pro Tour, like I could go there and like consistently get better at Magic because I would learn things from the people there. That's an amazing group.
Yeah, that's been a really big barrier for me trying to improve my limited game. Is like I literally couldn't get a draft of 8 people that I know are good at drafting together and draft. Like there's always going to be 3 or 4 people that are like, you know, they don't have the same goals. It's something you keep hearing about in preparing groups. It's like test with people with the same goals as you. And if you have 4 people that are trying to master an environment and like 3 or 4 people that are like, hey, maybe we'll open some good rares, this will be fun or whatever, like you're not going to get as good results as if you have 8 people that are actively trying to qualify or like spike a GP.
Or win $50 from their opponents. That's one of the reasons that the Florida limited group been strong for so long, is that like they have that money drafting community.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no gambling involved with Magic cards.
Huh? Oh, yeah. I mean, money. I mean, money is in fun. You know, fun. The currency of Magic is fun, right? So, but yeah, like I haven't, and that's kind of like almost dried up from the Grand Prix scene. Like I just remember going to Grand Prix when like 3 or 4 years ago, and getting introduced to money drafting being a regular thing. And every GP that I did in day 2, I could find 3 or 4 money drafts, and then recompense some of the weekend, like get some of that money back, like pay for my meals and my gas at least, you know, and get better at limited, like get better at this limited format and be a little bit ahead of people that way. But I haven't. I
actually got all my connections through money drafts.
Right.
I was like the new kid on the block, and people asked to money draft against me, and that's how I met like Luis and a lot of the channel guys. And then I was money drafting with them at nationals, and they asked me to start writing for the website, and you know the rest is history. But yeah, like money draft, it was my social networking.
Yeah, and I haven't noticed that lately. Like I have the last few GPs I've been to, there've been like a few people, but most of the people that are doing well, they're just like drafting in between rounds. Like it's not as omnipresent as it used to be, I don't think.
I think it has a lot to do with like the age of us in the game and how long we've been there, and also that Magic feels more like a hamster wheel than it used to, whereas there's always something to grind for, and there's always something to do, and there's always something to prepare for, where Magic used to feel like a festival. You play 1 Grand Prix a year, or 1 Grand Prix a weekend, or a month, excuse me. So you would want to interact with these people. Well, I see these people every weekend. You know, I don't feel like that social thing is as apparent anymore as it used to be, because I don't feel like the players have changed in any way to where they don't want to do the money drafts. I think it's just more of the social thing is gone because we see each other so much more frequently, as opposed to once every 3 or 4 months. We see each other like once a month.
Yeah, I could see that. Slogan, you're a pretty strong limited player, but you mostly got there from Moto, right?
Yeah, for the most part. There used to be a much better group of players in Iowa, which is where I'm from. not originally, but it's where I kind of live now. It hasn't been as much lately, but it's actually something that Josh McClain and I are trying to bring back, is the money draft. I'm currently down a bunch of money to him, but I'm never going to pay him back. And part of it's because he's a scumbag liar.
Josh McClain?
Yeah, last team draft I did.
He's such a nice guy.
No, he isn't. The last draft I did, it's just he and I being team captains and like picking teams against. And I'm playing my match, and then halfway through my round 2 or 3 match, he just says, "It's over, my team has won." And for whatever reason, I just accepted this as true, and it wasn't true at all. My team won. But we never conferred with each other and came to the conclusion that we actually won. So he actually owes me some money now, and yeah, he's scum. So
well,
scum.
you heard it here first. Josh McClain,
one of the nicest,
one of the nicest guys.
I always read these things about him being like this degenerate gambler, but every interaction I've had with him, he's just like the most level-headed, just sincere, friendly guy.
There's something weird. Those face-to-face guys are weird. I'm not gonna lie. I like them all, but their interactions with each other are strange.
I mean, like, Jacob Wilson and Alex Hayne doing these troll videos, this is how, like, they play for the most part, I'm guessing. Like, Alex Hayne and John Stern came down, and, like, John is a really nice, level-headed guy. I played Wolf with him. He's very logical, very clear. Alex seems like a maniac every time.
Okay, so I have a great story about Hayne and Werewolf. One of the first interactions I ever had with Alex Hayne was I was talking about Werewolf. He's like, "Oh, I'll tell you the story about the first time I ever played Werewolf." So it started off with someone getting drunk, and all of a sudden they're afraid of heights and we're in an elevator. And now we're going to make them go to the top floor. The story goes on for like at least like 5 more minutes. And then we finally get to the ground floor and we open the elevator and Patrick Chapin's like, "Hey, do you guys want to play Werewolf?" And that was the story. You know, it's just like 5 minutes of this elevator ride, and then that's the first time he ever played Werewolf, is the story. And at the end of it, I was just like, that had nothing to do with Werewolf. He was like, "Yeah, but that's my Werewolf story." And I'm like, it was a really good story. I'm glad you told me.
The first time I ever played Werewolf was not actually a Werewolf story either. I'd taken a Greyhound bus from northern Wisconsin to GP Minneapolis, and I'd gone on this like 8-hour bus ride or something. I was like 15 or something, and my parents were just fine with me taking a Greyhound to some Grand Prix, because they're old hippies. They're like, "Yeah, it'll be fine, whatever. Have some money for food or whatever. Get out of here." And the third night, I just like begged people if I could like pay them some money to crash on their floor, and I found a room that way. But the last night, everybody that I'd been sleeping with left, and there wasn't anybody that I could talk to sleep on their floor, because everybody's gone. Like, there's nobody in this Grand Prix anymore. So I'm thinking, like, I don't really want to go sleep at the Greyhound bus station, because that sounds like a good way to get stabbed. And so I'm just like chilling in this lobby, and then I see Gary Wise, Gadiel Slifer, I'm probably mispronouncing his name, and Gabe Walls, and they're all playing this game, and I come over and I'm all like nervous and stuff because I recognize a few of them, and I'm this like kid / fanboy, etc. And Gabe Walls sees me and he's like, "Come on, like play this game with us, you'll love it," and etc. And I don't know, that was sweet. Werewolf? It was Werewolf. I got this fanboy so hard.
Yeah. I don't actually know Gadiel, but I do know that he won Pro Tour Gifts Ungiven. And I cannot imagine engaging this human being in a game of Logic. That sounds miserable.
He's also like a karate black belt, and like he was a pretty quiet Werewolf player, very very reserved. But yeah, logical. Pro Tour Gifts Ungiven.
So the worst thing about that is, like, it's probably among the most skill-intensive Pro Tours of all time. There's a little piece of Magic history trivia, is the Pro Tour for Champions of Kamigawa block was actually a skins Pro Tour, and the money you were awarded was based off of how many people you beat. So he actually won the least money of any Pro Tour winner of all time.
Is that true?
Yeah.
It is accurate.
Yeah. Wow. And they only did that once, or did they do that a couple times?
That was a one-time thing.
I remember that. I remember reading about it.
2HG.
It's kind of nice, like if you like 2 and 4 day 1 or something, or 2 and 6 or something to not day 2, and then you can like put some money in your pocket and help pay for your food and stuff. That's not the worst. I mean, obviously it's awful for him specifically.
All or nothing, baby. All or nothing. We spend so much of our time playing this game that when you get into a position to finally win money, you want to win it.
You want to maximize? That's fair.
Yeah, I want as much money on the line as possible when I get in situations. Like, whenever I'm in a finals of a tournament and someone's like, do you want to split? I'm like, do you want to play for it all?
Yeah, right.
Like, second place goes home with nothing.
I always thought
I even
that...
get your free premium for a year. Like, you get nothing. I can't even use that.
I always thought that when I'm asked that in the finals of the PTQs, if someone's like, do you want to have it so that second place gets 2 boxes, I was like, why doesn't the first place get both boxes? Why don't we just play for all of that nonsense? And nobody's ever taken me up on that, unfortunately, because I lose a lot of PTQ finals. But
well, I've only taken second place in one PTQ, and that was a Moto one.
Oh no!
And I was already qualified. It was just trying to win the 1,000. I was trying to beat that guy. Like, that awful human being.
I lost to that guy.
Qualified and screwing everyone's Sunday in their house.
Yeah.
Like, I was ruining their day while they're at home. And, but other than that, I was lost.
Kelkano did that to me in a Cobblade mirror. I played, like, mono Cobblade mirrors to get in this top 8, and then I play against Kelkano in the top 8, and I just, like, have to mulligan really low and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I already have an invite, I'm just playing for the money, and I'm like, well, I, like, message him on Facebook, I'm like, I don't need this money, I really want to put your invite, like, why don't you scoop? And he's just like, nah, just crushes me, like, wins the thing, and is that guy, but I mean, you have to have confidence in yourself, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I mean, and
he's winning that for
like,
himself. There's nothing wrong with that. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'll play in
$1,000.
I play in local IQs because I'm in central SCG area, and there's a lot of IQs. And the way I see it is, like, I paid my entry fee too. Like, my goal is to win this tournament. So you get to a situation where somebody in the finals of the tournament's like, I'm not qualified, but you are, so we should split. And I'm like, well, I'm here to win the money and the points. Like, that's what I'm here for. And so if you're not willing to sacrifice those, like, why should I sacrifice anything myself? And so, I mean, if you pay an entry fee and you're not breaking any law or breaking any rule, like, you should be entitled to do whatever you want. And that's why they should also let me play in PTQs. I can't win anything. I think the sadness acquired from my opponents as I beat them.
I think a good way to decrease the attendance for PTQs would be to have the second place person get banned for like half a year. And then, like, all of a sudden, like, only, like...
It just be the worst.
It's already the worst. Why not? Why not just kick them while they're down?
No, you're contractually obligated to wave goodbye to the guy as he gets on his plane.
Yeah. Just make the tournament more miserable for everybody that doesn't win, and then all of a sudden, like, people that aren't used to winning, like, maybe they feel like they should be playing a different tournament.
No, like golf, man. Like, you send second place to the tournament, but they have to caddy for the person. They have to get them food.
Shuffle their deck and get their lunch.
Re-sleeve their decks and get their
that's
lunch
amazing.
for them.
Get the
Oh, man, that'd be great.
them.
Water, like, you just have all the people going to get water for each other. They would, like, start their own little groups at the tournaments and just, like, they'd try to do a side draft and someone's like, nope, we gotta go.
Sorry, man. Invited players only. No caddies.
Caddies and Magic should be a thing. For sure. That's an amazing idea.
So, this was a couple PTs ago, but a Minnesota guy, Dave Yetka, was at the Pro Tour, and I forget what happened. I think that he, like, shattered glass with one of his hands. So, like, he actually had somebody in all of his rounds shuffling his deck for him.
And people thought she was cheating. People are ridiculous, man. Like,
People are absurd.
Yeah, no, I love Dave. I actually haven't seen him forever, man. Now that you mention it, I miss him. He was one of my favorites from Minnesota. Yeah, I haven't seen him in years, but yeah, I remember that. That was Philly, and they got she shuffled for him, and he got one of the card. It was like a board game / card game where you put all the cards in it, and they just stand straight up, and he had that. And
like the thing that holds the Scrabble pieces?
Yeah, like a Scrabble piece thing, but for cards.
That's fantastic.
He used that for the games, and I think he was playing Affinity. I think Affinity was a deck then. Maybe not. I don't remember. But But yeah, I remember that tournament. It's kind of like Sandy Dog. I'm a good friends with Sandy Dog. I love that kid to death, and his mom. But the best is like every tournament I see them at. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sandy Dog.
Yeah, the kid in the wheelchair. His mom shuffles for him and stuff.
His mom loses him on a game like every tournament.
Just by like showing the wrong card or something.
Or like she drew 3 with Thoughtcast once.
Oh god! Getting game lost because your mom draws an extra.
Got the deck, put the deck back in the wrong order after putting back for game 1.
Oh no!
For the next round, and she screwed up something against Saito when he just had to win like 2 more to top 8 at GP.
Oh no!
And they just beat the crap out of him game 2 and 3.
Okay.
But they're awesome, and I mean, she takes him to all the tournaments, and he's a really good Magic player, and he's been in the Moto
tournament thing, right? That big the Mox Championship. I remember he was there one year.
Yeah, I was giving him a pep talk about like how exhausting that tournament is because I did it the year prior, and about how he just has to play his Magic and not get too super stressed because it was a very stressful weekend playing, what was it, like 10 to 11 rounds per day.
And a variety of different formats, right? It's so hard to test for multiple formats.
But they switched them around on me. So it was like I had to play Modern Day 1 or whatever, the equivalent of Modern Extended, I guess, back then.
Sure.
And then Limited, both. But we had to play like the new, I don't know. Every time I ever get to do something sweet with Magic, I just feel like I'm dancing for them. They're like, oh, you're going to be in this Player of the Year finals. And I'm like, that is awesome. And they're like, we've never done this before. I'm like, well, here's a good idea. What if you just have us play 3 best of 3s in the formats of the Pro Tours during that format, but we can rechange our decks. So, like, now we have perfect information about these formats, and, like, now we have to try to level each other. And they're like, no, we're going to have you play 12-pack sealed. Good luck.
What if you played Heads Up Commander on our new beta client?
Yeah. And they're like, this card's bugged. And they're like,
Didn't you guys play standard?
Could you report a compensation? Yeah, could you report for compensation? We'll get that bug fixed eventually.
I thought you guys played a standard match to see who would get to be Player of the Year.
We played standard and 12-pack sealed.
Okay, I just didn't watch the 12-pack sealed because who would watch that?
It was.
It was at like 2 in the morning in the state. Well, in Central Time anyway. Like,
that's well within my schedule.
Yeah, and that was back when Player of the Year got nothing except. I mean, I get to say I'm Player of the Year, which is sweet. Actually, we took one of those SCG stickers because they had like the stickers for the promotion for the tournament with me and Guillaume, and I put one on the trophy to take a picture. And then when I pulled it off, it pulled all the paint off immediately. Like it's like I just put it on and pulled it off, and just all the paint came flying off. And I got this trophy, right? That now I had to put a different sticker on it to hide just it not having anything. And then I got a foil Inkmoth Nexus. And then the next year when Owen won, they're like, here's a qualification to this sweet 16-person tournament.
Oh my god, with all the money? Yeah. Just like have like a dump truck full of money show up to Owen's house, and you're sitting there with like your shitty broken trophy.
Yeah. Owen's trophy was broken. It broke immediately, right?
Yeah, his broke immediately.
He at least had a trophy problem.
Yeah, and then like the next year I won an invitational, and then the year after that they're like, now invitational winners win this Player of the Championships. And I was just like, come on! Like, I'm always a year early.
Know that feeling. I remember when they first switched over to Planeswalker Point invites, and I was like, I don't know what this is gonna do for me. And I was talking to someone on just someone on the online, they were like, Caleb, you were 7th in the world that season. And I looked and I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll be fine then. And then I immediately spike a PTQ, and I'm just like, oh, well, I guess this... I mean, I'm happy that I spiked a PTQ, but this system that is, like, seemingly designed to benefit me specifically is not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Planeswalker Points has always been the bane of my existence. I mean, now I'm gold, so I get 3 buys, but for the last season, I was 2 buy. Like, I only had 2 buys all season long. I think I might have played 1 GP with 3 buys. And this was weird to me because the first GP I ever played was 2 buys and then I was always at 3 until this last season. So it was really weird to go back to 2 buys. but I was always at like 1470 because I would just like not have the discipline to finish a goddamn open at like 3-2.
Yeah,
so each season, if I played like one more tournament or just finished one tournament I did bad in, I would have gotten the third bye. But it was all on my fault. But at the end of the season, I was like, how many points do I have? I'm like, 1463. That's great. Like.
But did you win your round 3s? You don't need the third bye if you win your round 3.
I lost one of them, I think. That's not true. You can like miss on breaks and stuff.
I guess aren't they like resetting breakers now? Didn't they change?
Well,
that?
not the huge ones, yeah, which is still ridiculous. Oh my god. Also, why can't we go back to, like, this is a real thing. This is like, if I got to change one thing about Wizards, and this is real, this is the one thing I would change, is limited GP should be 15 rounds because of all the extra time drafting and deck building. But why do we not have 17 round or 18 round standard GPs when they're getting done at like 4:30, 5:30 in the afternoon? Like, how do we have to play these 15-round tournaments where X2 doesn't top 8?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. You know? If someone
like,
goes X and 2 and then like just doesn't top 8 and they're like, here's an invite, but you don't have the money to like get there and stuff.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. X2, I remember when X2 was a hard luck, X2-1 was a hard luck in a GP, and I went X1-2 in a GP and took like 19th. I went X3 in a GP and took like 47th. It's like, it's ridiculous, and there should just be more rounds. 15 rounds is not enough for these big of a tournament, especially with the variance that comes with all the X2s. Like, you should not have to have the same record in a 15-round tournament as you do in like an open that's 9 rounds. Like, you should not have to X1. Like, that is absurd for a Grand Prix. Grand Prix should be more rounds and allow players to go in at X2, and it doesn't make it easier, right? You're playing more rounds. You have to have more wins.
Right, but it doesn't like screw the people. I mean, the whole point of doing it Swiss is so that the people that are X and 2 can top 8. You can get the second loss. And so if you're not going to have that be a thing, like, maybe this tournament should be single elimination, because if you only
it changes like deck decisions so much for me. Like, when, like, I don't like that I have to not only try to figure out a metagame, but try to figure out how big the tournament's going to be. I'm just like, if it's going to be 23 people, 2,300 or more, I can't play this deck. You know?
Can you go more specifically? I know what you mean, but like people that are watching might not necessarily know what you mean.
There's decks that you're just going to take more losses than others, but you're going to win a higher percentage of. I wrote a really good article about this. It was like 2 months ago.
What's it
about
called?
Metagaming. I don't know, metagaming something.
Google metagaming something by Bard Nelson.
Metagaming modifications. I don't know. I try to have wordplay, but I'm not really intelligent.
I'll see if I can find the article and link it in the YouTube video.
Yeah, and I'm explaining that certain tournaments allow certain amount of losses, and so there's different risks involved. And at a GP, like at an open, you have to play a deck with like the anti-red cards because you might play against a red deck. But at a GP where I can get 2 losses, I'm just gonna hopefully have a deck so well built against all the non-red decks, or the decks that I think are going to underperform as well as be underplayed, that I can just have all the extra tools. So I have like 62 cards against the best players, so whatever tech they have, I might actually have the answers for. And so, like, you know, when I played Esper Control, I had like 3 Dark Patrols in my sideboard and not a single card against a red deck. Like, I had to hope that I got the perfect, like, I had the Dispel that I had in my sideboard along with like a turn 4 Wrath and a Jace into a Sphinx's Rev. Like, I had no extra card that wasn't already in my main deck against red, but I had, you know, 2 Revokes, 3 Dark Patrols against the black decks. You know, so like against black, I got to have the most efficient version of Esper you could ever think of. And that helped when I played against, you know, Eric Froelich and Jadine, can't pronounce her last name, playing mono black, and they were both very good players, and I got there on the power of like the cards I brought.
Just won that pairing lottery?
Huh?
Just won that pairing lottery? No brain?
Oh,
roll the dice.
That tournament was just a pairing lottery. After thinking about it, I did not play against a non-controlled or blue or black devotion deck in day 2 of the tournament. In all 9 rounds, I played either against a control deck, an Esper deck, or a control deck, a mono black deck, or a mono blue deck, which was like my perfect pairing. So,
whenever I did well at an invitational, both the ones I top 8'd, I just played a pile of Delvers, and I just won a pile of Delver Mirrors. and I lost to things that weren't Delver Mirrors. It was just actually just winning Yawn pairing lottery.
All right.
So just for a wind, I just want to make one point on the whole adding more rounds to GPs. Like the most infuriating thing, I think, for me, is that adding another round is actually just all upside for Wizards. They get another hour or so of exposure. Everybody that does commentary, I assume, is salaried. Judges will work 16-hour days for the right to get kicked in the nuts, right? Like, they don't pay those guys anything. Like, there's like this minimal cost thing that just gives you more exposure and it makes the players happier.
Yeah, and well, there's downsides because when they used to all be the same, the thing is every decision I feel like they make they don't think about all the other things that'll impact. They think of the one situation now. Like, you can just take a look at like how they did, like how many GPs you can play for points, how many points they give away, how many Pro Tour points you get away, and how many you need for getting your certain statuses. And every time they made a switch, it didn't feel like they took into account all the other things that'll be impacted. And you can just take a look at that. They're like, well, we can't have these limited GPs getting done at like midnight. So all GPs are 15 rounds. When now we should reevaluate. Like, yes, limited ones I understand because you have to add 3 rounds to a limited GP because of the 2 drafts and deck constructions and the top 8 draft and deck construction. That's actually like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Added to those tournaments. By the time you get to top 8, it's around 7 or 8 already. But at a constructed GP, I mean, we're done at like 3:34 at the latest because it's only like a 200 or 300 person tournament, and you know these tournaments are staffed really well, and so like at that point they have enough judges, they have amazing scorekeepers that are just like running these tournaments really efficiently. So like we get done at like 4 o'clock, and I don't know about you, but getting done at 4 o'clock at a tournament just feels weird. That's not even saying if I top 8 or not.
Kind of
like
weird, yeah.
Like I lost in the finals of Cincinnati, and it was still daylight. That was weird to me.
There's also like they're shading the number of buys, right? Isn't 2 buys going to be the maximum? Couldn't they like add, what?
Gold, baby, we got 3.
Oh, okay. So like how like 15 people in the world get
and this
like,
is the first time that ever Wizards has made a decision that benefited me at the time that I got it. Well, it was at the time I got it. They're like, now gold up gets 3, and there's no other way to get 3 buys. I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm so glad I didn't punch someone at the last break.
But the number of buys in general is getting reduced dramatically because people can't grind up to 3 buys, right? It seems like they could like add another round to the constructed GPs.
No, now that no one gets 3 buys, now I'm good at 15. No, I'm kidding.
It's really surprising that all of these Grand Prix still fire off a bazillion grinders too, even though they don't award 3 buys. And like that's just mind blowing to me that you like. I think one of the last ones had something like 40 grinders fire. So
a lot of them have like. Are you talking about the on-site grinders?
Yeah, the on-site ones.
Okay, yeah.
You have to look at it through different eyes. Like, assuming, like, I don't know your guys' backstories, but assuming that you're on a podcast with Caleb, and I know Caleb's backstory, I would consider you guys, I hate using the term grinder because it's so loosely, but, like, you travel to more tournaments than the average Magic player. Whereas a Grand Prix, people, that's their festival. That's their, like, do you ever, like, they're the guys that have a calendar and they're like GP in 3 months and circle it, you know, and take the time off and make sure, and like that's who they are. So when they go there, they don't waste all their money on hotels every weekend and driving every weekend. This is their one time to have fun. They're gonna grind a bunch, and a lot of players that don't see why are the ones that like do penny pinch because they have to, because they travel every weekend and they don't see the value in it. But like Magic isn't about value. It's about having fun.
That's very true. And there's also these are people with like full-time jobs who don't necessarily have time to test. So when they show up for a tournament, they've maybe played their deck in like once or twice beforehand, and like the grinders are actually relevant testing for them, and they're getting a feel like for constructed or for competitive Magic that has like more value than you would expect to.
Yeah, my eyes have been open from just like traveling to all the opens and the invitationals, and And a lot of the tournaments are the ones that Star City runs, and the reason why the GPs that Star City run are so big are, yes, they're run really well, and I don't say that because I work for Star City Games. Like, if I didn't work for Star City Games, I'd still say their tournaments are the best run ever, because they are. If you've ever played at an SCG run tournament compared to a non-SCG run tournament, it's like day and night. It's just it's a huge difference. And except you've got Steve Port up there. Like, Steve Port's also like awesome.
Yeah, Steve Port is excellent. Like, it's like this huge downswing in quality when you go from a locally run Steve Port tournament and then you go to like a pastimes event.
Yeah.
It was the worst when they were running events at Gen Con. I mean, Gen Con is just a terrible place to be having Magic tournaments anyway. But then, like, they're trying to run, like, Nats there and, like, all that obnoxiousness, and, like, vintage players are having their decks stolen, just, like, all of these complications. Yeah. And you have to, like, use Gen Con tickets to get into a tournament entry for some reason. Like, all these people there not playing Magic, just the nut low.
But yeah, so like real quick, I can say it as fast as possible.
Sure.
But like, Star City Game GPs were like really high numbers because they made it feel like a festival, and they had like different things that appealed to people outside of just the tournament itself. Same thing that's happening in Florida in a couple weeks, and the Wizards did this at the Pro Tour, which didn't make any sense. They like had these artists, and they had a wheel, and you spun it, and it had different things they would add to art. And they had a Garrick piece of art, and they give raffle tickets away all weekend, and they would draw for these playmats that I think they overnight printed. And so the artists were drawing the Garrick all weekend long, and every once in a while you'd roll and you'd see like, oh, they added a fox, and they added like a ship, whatever the ship is that's iconic on Magic. I don't know what it's called. The most iconic flying airship.
The Weatherlight.
The Weatherlight, yeah. So they had
the Flying Dutchman. Like, that's not. They had
to put the Weatherlight on this, and like they drew this thing, and it was this big festival. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, why is this at the Pro Tour? Like, everyone that's 2-0 so far in the Pro Tour is going to love this, and everyone that's 0-2 in the tournament is going to hate it. And I bet there's a correlation. You know, like why wouldn't they have this at a Grand Prix? Like, this seems like the sweetest thing for a Grand Prix, like, ever. Like, 10 custom-made playmats that are only given away at this tournament, and they're only going to have these 10.
Yeah, like, that's actually a really good idea. That would be pretty awesome
insane.
for a Grand Prix.
Yeah,
and they're trying to
promote that.
What?
What were you saying about the way that Star City like sells their GP? Like, this is something that they do just amazingly well. Is that they don't make these large competitions just for the most competitive people. Like the Mythic Madness thing, like that's a great incentive. Like, you get this cool kind of like raffle ticket, and so it's just fun for everybody that's there. And this upcoming promotion where you have those pins that you can collect for doing various things at the Grand Prix, like that's a really awesome thing as a more casual player. Like, it's cool kind of collector's items. You can say, yeah, I went there, now I have this thing because of that. Like, that's a really good promotion. That's going to get people to get there. And like, I know people that are like, I know people that get irritated when watching streams. Like, there's all these commercials all the time now. I just want to watch people play, and like, I want to watch people play too. But this is really good for Magic. Like, this gets people excited to come out and play, and not just for playing the game. Like, it's just really good promoting.
Well, yeah, of course there's like commercials and people just want to see play, and yeah, I don't when I'm watching like, you know, Hulu or TV, I don't want commercials either. But the thing about the commercials is like that you can't just always have matches on. It's just impossible. That's the problem.
That's not necessarily true. Channel has been doing like a second camera that they run while the first camera's going, and then during the downtime they play a completely fresh match. And they've been doing that. That's exciting to me. I think if Star City started doing that and Wizards started doing that, like, all of Magic coverage would benefit.
So I don't know. I don't want to do anything too far behind the curtain, but yes, that's cool. But like, the thing is Channel's not running tournaments every weekend, so they have like a roster of people that come out and are doing commentary where they have more than the 2 or 3.
Although, I mean, Star City has more than the 2 or the 3 for invitationals. Why don't they do that for invitationals?
Well, I mean, I guess they could. They have the 2, but like, I mean, I'm not the person to be talking about SG commentary, but the thing it does cause burnout, and you could have the backup being recorded maybe, but that's what the backup feature matches also. I mean, that could be a very well thing, but I'm not the person to talk to because I haven't done commentaries for a very long time. Pretty much, I only like doing commentary when I got to do it with JVL.
JVL's great. He interviewed me once, and he was like super excited, super into everything, and like I had it was just a lot of fun to be interviewed. It's not always that Rich Hagons interviewed me and looked like seriously bored as I'm like exhausted on a Grand Prix day 2 trying to give him like an articulate answer to some question about Rug Delver, and he's like yawning, and I'm like, well.
Well, and that's Jake. Jake is my best friend. I was actually talking to him right before this, and we just keep each other so amped all the time. So like, he's one of the best. But I don't want to be this guy, but I didn't know we were going to go for 2 hours, and the girl was probably screaming.
That is absolutely fine. We've had a good cast, and thank you for joining us. We appreciate it very much.
You cycle through a bunch more people and get through your roster, and if you ever have a dead weekend, or if people actually liked this, I will be back. I enjoy this kind of thing.
Yeah, no, ton of fun, and thanks again. And we are...
What's our outro? Do we have an outro?
The outro is we are out.